If it works for you now to work in the morning, later in life, that may be when you need to walk your dog and pay your bills. Just be open to change. Those are my two pieces of advice.
Wonderful. Let's talk about Everfair.
Okay.
This is I had a really interesting conversation with Stephen Barnes about an alternate history that he did and others. This was really kind of, you go into the Belgian Congo. It flips the script totally. It's awesome how it does it. Where did the original idea come to you for this? And please just take us back into the original inspiration of this wonderful novel of yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, there are many inspirations that sort of pool together for anything like this. For one thing, I loved some certain Victorian characters. I loved E. Nesbit, the children's writer. I loved H.G. Wells. I loved the Fabian Society, which was a British socialist society in that time. Then I was invited to the World Fantasy Convention because a couple of works of mine had been nominated for awards, and they wanted me to be on a panel about steampunk, which led me to wonder, why do I not like steampunk? In fact, why do I hate steampunk? And I dug down through my preferences and found that although I love Victorian literature and I'm kind of kinky about machinery and cogs and stuff, it was the way that they supported and validated colonialism and imperial movements that left a bad taste in my mouth. So I got up on the panel and I swore that I would write a steampunk story that that subverted that colonialism. And then Michael Swanwick, who was also on the panel, sort of rolled his eyes at me. And I said, and I will make you love it. I will make you beg to read it. Which he never did. He never begged to read it, but he did love it. Gosh, what else inspired it? While I was doing some research, there was Henry Ford had put together a colony in South America, Fordlandia, where they grew rubber and processed it into tires. And I thought, well, if he could do that in the name of capitalism, these people could do it in the name of socialism. I used a lot of historical personages where I could, when I could find them. And I did want to get the most broad spectrum of origins because I felt that I wanted to get everybody's voice into this chorus of what was going on there and what was going on then, and get more than one viewpoint. One of the inspirations also that I forgot to mention was a book by Adam Hochschild called King Leopold's Ghost. King Leopold's Ghost was about Leopold II of Belgium and his project to monetize the Congo, basically, with horrific results. So some of the characters are from that. I mentioned E. Nesbit. I mentioned H.G. Wells, J.M. Barrie. So that's who I went with. Tink. I actually, as I was doing my research, I found that Leopold had hired a bunch of Chinese railway builders. He actually historically did. They were supposed to build something from the port to the navigable stretches of the Congo River. And this was hard work. And, eventually some of them said, well, I'm not doing this anymore. And they downed picks and said, which way is east? And they headed east. They did not get back to Macau, but there were several villages that still to this day have the influence of Chinese culture. So steampunk is just this sort of counterfactual look at history, basically saying what would have been different, what's an alternate history of the Congo with dirigibles, with steam technology being more widely used, more widely available. What if there were computers in Victorian England? That's a famous one from William Gibson. And there were natural nuclear reactors in the ground in that area of Africa. So they kind of petered out maybe 1 million years before the story starts. So I just bumped them into the future a little bit. And it seemed to go nicely with what I was trying to do, because also in that part of the continent, there was a lot of worship that took place underground. So underground nuclear reactors, underground worship, you just put them together and then you have a way to drive steam engines that is more efficient, say, than diesel. I was deeply involved in checking the technology. Fortunately, I had help. I was modeling quite a bit of what I did on Zeppelins and dirigibles that were made historically. You know, what are your payloads, and you know, what's your speed, and that kind of stuff. And I did have help. I had a friend that I met via Facebook, actually, who went through and said, yeah, this isn't going to work. Okay, you can get away with that. You might want to try this. So that was helpful, having the consultation. So what was really fun was coming up with the armor, because I was in a critique group with someone who said, what you need is mass. You don't need weight, you need mass. And so in collaboration with her, I came up with the scheme of basically a bunch of thorn bushes around the sides, because that's the kind of baffle that would keep away any kind of bullets or bombs or anything, but it's lightweight because there's so much air in there. It's mass, it's not weight. That was fun. When I finished writing it, before it was published, I did not have a sequel in mind. It had been an enormous amount of work. It had taken me so many years to write. And when you do an alternate history, there's this sort of snowball effect. You know, you change one small thing and it becomes larger in its implications. And then those implications lead to further implications. And I did not want to do another 30 years like that. But then I had some ideas for what would happen next with other characters, particularly focused on Tink. And at the end of Everfair, Tink decides that he is not going to become an Everfarer. He's not going to submit to the king. So I was interested in what happened to him next. And I proposed it as I proposed an outline of what I thought would happen, and Tor was not interested initially. They were not interested until the movie Black Panther came out, and suddenly they were like, oh wait, maybe people are interested in what happens in Africa. Yeah. And you know, I just finished yesterday, as we speak, I just finished my final polish of Pinning, the sequel to Everfair. It only it only takes place over a couple of years, and there it's that arc is in some ways incomplete. There needs to be another sequel, which I already am working on in my head. It's called Trulies.
If you'll permit me, I have some questions about Kenning. If I look down, I'm looking at my notes again. I'm not checking email or anything, but
Oh, sure.
I stayed up very late prepping for this, so I'm trying to, a couple of title butcheries aside. I have horrible dyslexia, so it's something I have overcome in in the course of being 47. But I still, when I read, sometimes when I read my teleprompter script, I can only read 3 lines at a time, and then it turns into a jumble. It's amazing how that works. But I smoke a lot of pot, so that helps me to kind of focus myself when I'm doing that.
You know, I know 3 other Black science fiction writers who have or had dyslexia: Octavia Butler, Samuel Delaney, Nalo Hopkinson.